This was a book that ruined my day, ruined my month, ruined my year, and somehow ended up on the best books of 2022 list. Hi guys, welcome to the video. My name is Carrie. Thank you for being here. This is so bittersweet. This is gonna be my last video of 2022. I started this channel in the summer of 2020. I don't know why it feels like this is a significant timestamp, but I don't know. I just feel like this channel, like this year, really grew and we became like, I don't know, just something bigger than I thought it would be. And I don't want to get teary-eyed, but like I'm just so honored and happy to be here. I also last night just launched a Discord for us. So I have had a Discord for my main channel, which is Cari Cakes, but I decided to make one that is just kind of more generally book and writing related. It's not really linked to me as a creator, open to everybody, even if you don't watch my videos. And there's already, just last night, became such a wholesome little beautiful place. And so if you want to check that out, I will put the link in the description box. Just overall, I'm just so thankful that we've all kind of somehow found each other on this World Wide Web. And yeah, happy end of 2022. I'm gonna take next week off because it's my birthday. Anyway, you guys are here to hear about my favorite books of the year. That was a lot of rhyming. And I'm gonna start, how am I gonna do this? My list was actually quite easy to make. I knew basically 3 of the 6 books that were gonna be on this, like immediately. I had no hesitation. But before that, I wanna talk about 2 second books in a trilogy that I read that didn't necessarily make it to the tippy top of my best books of the year list, but they were absolutely incredible as second books in a series and can't stop thinking about them. So are you ready to just dive in? Let's go. So the first book that I want to talk about is one that I've talked about recently, and so you're sick of hearing about it, so I will be quick, and that is Bloodmarked. It is the second book in the Legendborn cycle, keyword, because Tracy, the author, has allegedly said that it is a confirmed trilogy. The word cycle makes me nervous because she could very easily be like, I was kidding. It's gonna have 4 or 5 or 6 books. So I'm not trusting Tracy. All I know is that it's the second book in a series. I adored Legendborn. I'm pretty sure it was on my list of favorite books of 2021. It is a young adult fantasy that takes place in present day in North Carolina in the US. It follows our main girl named Bree, who is a brilliant high school student. So she enrolls in this kind of university program where she gets to go to university even though she's still in high school, right? We are introduced to her as someone who's dealing with the loss of her mother in this accident that just ever since then like doesn't seem right. Like obviously losing a parent in an accident never seems right, but like this on like some kind of almost brain chemistry level, like something is wrong about her memories of it. And when she gets to university, she starts to see even stranger things in the forms of maybe demons. She ends up getting wrapped up in a secret demon hunting society, and it goes on from there. There are ties to King Arthur in terms of the fantasy element, but it also takes place in present day in the South in the US, and Bree is a black teenager. And so it talks a lot about racism, whether it's microaggressions or the entire system in which America was built upon. So it's so complex, but Tracy's writing is just glorious. It's so good. And the way that she's able to weave those two things together, King Arthur and Welsh lore, and then American systematic racism, like those, I didn't know how those would mesh. She does it incredibly well. She's also talking obviously about grief and generational trauma, and it's so good. It's so good. And so I loved Legendborn, and Bloodmarked obviously followed off of what happened in Legendborn. I thought that as a second book, it was really good. Again, Tracy's writing is just so powerful. A lot of people said that they were maybe a little bit frustrated by the book, or it definitely was a little confusing in terms of like there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of hierarchy, the world is very complex. So it wasn't a perfect book, but I think as the second book in a series, I'm salivating for the third book. Like I can't, I just think she's doing such an incredible thing, and I can't wait to read every single thing that she writes. And that is blood marked. Oh my god. And the last of my second books in a series that ruined my life and made my year is The Ballad of Never After. And did you just see me go, huh? It's because me, queen of only getting books from the library. Yeah, I bought a physical because these covers, man. How could I not? I ordered the first one, Once Upon a Broken Heart, but I could only order it to the US. What is this about? So, Once Upon a Broken Heart is a series that takes place directly after the Caraval series, which is by Stephanie Garber. A lot of people feel certain ways about the Caraval series, and I understand. The Caraval series is very whimsical. It felt quite a bit younger YA, and then as the series progressed, I think it tried to not like age up in terms of like content or steaminess, but it felt a little bit more mature just in like the writing style. It's not like smutty or anything. You can very clearly see, even if you didn't like the series, Stephanie's writing just improves so much throughout the series. And so Once Upon a Broken Heart starts almost directly after, actually sort of during the final book of Caraval, and follows a different character. So do you need to read Caraval to understand Once Upon a Broken Heart? It would help immensely, and it spoils Caraval. But if you're never gonna read Caraval, you can try it. Just because like I'm a sucker for this world, I would not recommend it, but I think you could. I think you could get it. It's kind of akin to what I did, which I read Six of Crows before I read anything else. I didn't read Shadow and Bone. I feel like it might be a similar experience. So there you go, Once Upon a Broken Heart. What's it about without spoiling Caraval? We follow a girl named Evangeline who has had her heart broken. And in this world, there are all of these different fates, they're called, and they're essentially different gods. And so throughout the city, you will have different temples to, the queen of whatever and the blah, blah, blah. They're all like kind of card names, which again, background of it is from Caraval. But Evangeline, because she has a broken heart, she goes to the temple dedicated to the Prince of Hearts. And she goes there looking for a way to win the love of her life back because he accidentally got engaged to the wrong girl. Oopsie daisy. And she makes a deal with the Prince of Hearts. Turns out that deal goes wacky. She tries to fix things. It just domino effects from there. She ends up getting wrapped up in this really weird scheme that the Prince of Hearts has that takes her to a completely other land, which is where her deceased mother is from, that she's only heard about in like stories that her mom told, and they just sound like fairy tales. So she's along for the ride. She has no idea what she's doing. She's being pulled around by this kind of god figure who of course is like low-key evil. It becomes this really wonderful adventure, love story. The way that Stephanie writes, like I said, is just so whimsical. I love this world so much, which is why I push people to read Caraval, even if like it's not the strongest of stories. The way, like certain words that Stephanie chooses, I just can't get enough. And so The Ballad of Never After is just a continuation of what happened in Once Upon a Broken Heart. And if you watched my reading vlog, so this isn't a spoiler now that like the news is out, but originally this was kind of hinted at being a duology, and so I was lucky enough to get the advanced copy from my friend Susan, who I don't know whether I love her or hate her for that, because I read it when I believed that this was going to be a duology. When I get to the end, when I tell you my life was ruined, like this, the ending of this book is twisted and cruel and so good, and I just sat in my bed staring at a wall for hours. She waited a good week or two after the book was finally released, so I waited for probably a month for her to announce that it indeed will be a trilogy, because if she had left us with that ending, I would have never read another book again. And it's also one of those books that like gets better when you read it again, because she will drop these tiny little breadcrumbs, and then you'll get to a part and you'll be like, oh my god, that detail meant that, and then you have to go back and you read it and it like changes the whole... Bloodmarked, The Ballad of Never After. Read these books. Thank you and good night. Okay, now for the books that were so strong by themselves that they have made it to my list of best books of 2022. I'm so excited for this. Looking at these, guys, this is a big deal. I remember the plots of all of them. I didn't have to look any of these guys up. I remember the plots. That is a huge deal for me. That shows you that these are something really special. So I vaguely ranked these. Don't put too much thought into it. It's not that big of a deal. So I'm going to start first off with Our Wives Under the Sea. Yes, I have not stopped thinking about this book since I read it. First of all, the covers, all of the editions. So good. Our Wives Under the Sea follows a couple. One partner is somebody who works on submarines. She's a marine biologist. Look at me saying that I remember the plot. Yeah, she's a marine biologist, and she gets sent on some kind of research thing where she has to go into a submarine and go deep in the sea and like collect stuff, right? I don't want to spoil it too much because it's told in a very interesting timeline. We get flashbacks, we get flash forwards, we get etc. So I don't want to ruin too much of it, but it was just eerie but beautiful. It was heartbreaking. It talks a lot about grief and what it's like to lose someone that you love, to fall out of love, what happens when people in a relationship change. I guess at the end of the day, it's kind of about unconditional love, is sort of how you'd look at it. The way that it made me feel, I can't verbalize, but it is just so incredible. This is how I'm gonna be the whole rest of this video. I'm not gonna be able to articulate a single thought. I'm just gonna be like, read the book. But it's a very quick read, I felt. It is split POV. It was so beautiful. So definitely, like, if you're scared of underwater things, it definitely had an almost science fiction feeling, but at the end of the day, it really just felt like a story about love and faith and grief and loss and guys, Our Wives Under the Sea. I'm gonna try and be better. But please read that. It was just something that I can't stop thinking about, and I already want to reread it, which is incredible. So Our Wives Under the Sea. After that, I read How High We Go in the Dark. And surprisingly, actually, this list, I think a huge chunk of them all come from the same month. It was hit after hit after hit. And How High We Go in the Dark was one of the first books I read that month. This is a book that's like never going to leave my mind, ever. It is so heavy. Like, this was a book that ruined my day, ruined my month, ruined my year, and somehow ended up on the best books of 2022 list. Pay attention to the screen because I will put a timestamp for if you want to skip spoilers about this book. Without spoilers, How High We Go in the Dark is a collection of stories that are connected. Our first story takes place, it feels like kind of could be present day. And the stories stretch to hundreds of years later. It's definitely science fiction. It is just so devastating. Like, the subject matter. Close your eyes. I will put it on the screen, just kind of like a trigger warning. Close them now. Keep them closed. Keep them closed. Okay, I'm putting it off the screen. You can open your eyes. I could not put the book down. I was sobbing in the cafe. Like, it was just such an experience. Like, all of these books, I think, were just like, I felt like I was transcending like when I was reading them. Absolutely incredible, incredibly dark, quick to read. The middle of the book gets a little, like, those stories, it's like tiring to read something this heavy, but I think the way that it ended was really great and really important, I think, especially in kind of the time period that we are living in right now. I think that the way that it ended kind of lifted a bit of that heaviness off and was something at that time that I really needed to read. So just really incredible. But this is where I do want to get into a little bit of spoilers just to give you guys a heads up of what it's about. Like, I'm not going to spoil plot, but I will spoil subject matter. So skip-a-dee-doo-dah. There. All right. You gone? Cool. The first story of this book is about someone who goes up to Siberia or like somewhere way north, and they're doing research, they're digging in the ice, and they find a virus basically, and they think about waking it up, right? Like how if you find DNA in the ice and you can like, we can make a new woolly mammoth or whatever scientists are doing right now that scares me, they're like capable of doing that. Then we skip to a couple years later, and there is this devastating pandemic that mostly affects children. And so it's really, really, really hard to read. A lot of it is simply about how they deal with dying. More stories include testing on animals, trying to find different vaccines and stuff like that. And it just goes on from there. So really, I'm not kidding you when I say that it was incredibly heavy. Like that second story, it went from like, oh no, this is going to be like a disaster movie kind of thing. The second story, simply about children dying. I was hit by a train is how it felt. So please only read it when you're ready. But really, I think that the way that it ended gave me a lot of hope and gave me a lot of perspective about, you know, how we're just kind of like this little blip in the grand scheme of things, and you know, life will go on, maybe. So it's a book that hurts you a lot, but I think at the end gives you a really important perspective, and so I would definitely recommend it. That is How High We Go in the Dark. After that, lightening the mood a little, we have a standalone fantasy. It is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. Thank you to everyone who was like on my case about reading this book. So good. So this is based off of an old Korean folk tale. It takes place once upon a time in this tiny little town on the coast, and their life revolves around the sea, not only for getting their food and like the whole economy is based on fishing, but also the sea god is incredibly important to their society. And every once in a while, he gets angry and just kind of tears the town apart with storms and these giant waves and everything. And the only way to appease the sea god is to sacrifice one of their young girls and just boop, toss her in the sea so that she can be his bride. And after they do that, everything's fine for a while. The sea is smooth. Everyone can go about their happy little life. And then maybe a year or so later, the sea god will be like, new bride. And they just pop another girl in the ocean. Not the best situation if you're a young lady in the village. And so we follow a girl who may or may not have been sacrificed. And we go on an adventure to the spirit realm. What even else can I say? I've seen it compared a lot on like Book Talk, aka I just watch reels because I'm not on TikTok, to like Spirited Away. It absolutely, like once you get into the spirit realm, has such this kind of Ghibli vibe to it of it's just so overwhelming and whimsical and magical, and like it was such a visual book. Like when I was reading it, I could see the spirit realm so clearly. The way that she describes all of these little details, like the architecture, it was just so good. And I just can't recommend it enough. If you love fantasy, it was so well done. And it's a standalone. I thought that from beginning to end, it was just so good. It was just so good. So I highly recommend The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. So that's enough of feeling good. Back to our sad books. Last month I read this and it immediately I knew, like as I finished it, I was like, best book of 2022. This is As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. If you watched my video last month, you might be thinking, Cari, I thought you had the physical version of it. Where is it? I immediately tossed it to a friend. I was like, everybody needs to read this book. please take it. So I no longer have the physical only because I needed to share the wealth, the sadness, the pain. As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow is a debut novel. What? Unbelievable. It is about a young girl living in Syria. And even though this is fictionalized, everything that happens in this book has happened in Syria throughout the revolution. And it was hard to believe. It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And the writing is impeccable. That's why I can't believe that this was a debut. I'm so excited for all of their work. But As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow, follows our main girl who was a pharmacy student until the revolution happened, and she was forced into a role of working in the hospital and performing all of these things that like she is not trained to do, but there's just simply no doctors around to take care of all of these injured people. So she's like sewing people up, she's amputating limbs. I mean, and most of these patients are children. It's so heavy, so dark. She also lost her mother to a bombing. Her father and her brother were arrested and taken to prison. She is caring for her sister-in-law, who is also her childhood best friend, who is pregnant and wants to leave Syria so that she can, have her baby and not be worried about being killed every single day. She also has her PTSD personified in the form of this creepy man who's like confirmed a hottie, which doesn't make it any better, but this like hot creepy guy shows up all hours. It used to be at nighttime, but now it's like all hours of the day to remind our main girl of everything that is at stake. It's just her anxiety personified, and she just like can't get anything done. We follow her as she navigates this life where she made a promise to her brother that she would get her sister-in-law to safety, but leaving Syria is dangerous, but staying is even worse. But also she doesn't want to leave because this is her home, and what's going to happen to the hospital if she leaves? What's going to happen to Syria if she leaves, Amplify that by then she meets a boy. It was just, the story was so good. The story was so good. And like I said, it's just so different from reading a news article. I can't stress it enough. It's YA. She calls it halal romance. I don't know if that's like a real term, but there is romance, but they are both very devout Muslims, so it's not going to be smutty. It's very just like loving. It's romantic. It's so heartbreaking. Can you hear my yes, my voice is wobbling because I don't want to cry talking about this book, but like, guys, I feel them coming. So we're going to stop, but please read As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. Thank you. Next up though, okay, guys, I promise I'm not going to cry when I talk about this book, because this book, oh my god. Okay, so I finally read Gideon the Ninth. Oh my god. Don't ask me if I've read Harrow the Ninth yet. I read 25% of it and I had to put it down because my brain was just not there yet. But will I? Absolutely yes. Don't talk to me about it though. Zip it. All right, we're talking about Gideon. Okay, so I heard about this book a lot. I saw, like, in places where I don't normally see people talking about books, I saw people talking about Gideon the Ninth. And so my interest was piqued, but, like, I had a lot of things to do, I put it on hold at the library. It came in. I picked it up. I could not put this book down. I understand the hype. This was the funniest book I've maybe ever read. I was laughing out loud. Even just thinking about, like, it was so funny. I was in public spaces cracking up. And like, for me, crying while reading a book happens all the time. This, I was actually laughing out loud, which takes so much more. This was, oh my god, how do I even describe what it's about? So, this is a fantasy. It takes place on multiple different planets. How do I describe this book? We follow our main girl named Gideon, who lives on this planet that is like basically only exists to guard this mysterious tomb. Without getting too much into the world building, this kind of galaxy is all linked together by this kind of shared, almost religion, political structure. How do I even describe it? Okay, like at this point, it doesn't even matter. Just read this book. But basically, we have Gideon, who is raised on this planet, freaking hates it. All she wants to do is get off world. And she has tried to escape many times and she always gets caught. This time, however, she gets caught. She gets brought into the leader's room. She's not called a princess. She's called something else. But like for all intents and purposes go, right? She's a princess. She gets brought in front of the princess and she's like, listen, Gideon, I can help you get off world, but only if you come with me to this thingy as my second in command. Basically, the emperor or whatever, I'm so sorry to all these Gideon fans who are like, you're screwing this book up. I know I'm explaining it poorly, but there is essentially this, not competition, but like a meeting of all of the royals from each of the planets. They're all going to meet in one place and they are going to have a chance to become this sort of immortal thing, like a step above royalty. And it's something that the princess, Harrow, really wants. But in order to go, every single royal needs to have their second, which is the person who will like basically do battle and die for them if necessary. And so she's like, Gideon, that's gonna be you. And Gideon is like, I don't really want to do that, but like I don't have any other choice. So she goes. Like I said, the plot to me like doesn't even matter. I can't express to you enough how funny this book is. I think I mentioned it when I did my initial review of this book in my monthly wrap up, but Gideon felt like a character that is usually given the role of like the quirky best friend. Like she is just chaotic good / chaotic neutral. Where she will just do things that make no sense. And normally authors would put a character like that in like not in the driver's seat of the plot, let's just say. No, Gideon is in charge of the plot and we just go everywhere. It is so good. It gets a little confusing. Like I said, I was just reading it having the best time. The next book in the series is definitely a little bit less funny, less chaotic, but I have heard that the second you reach a point in that book, it all becomes clear and then you have to like reread the whole series again and it's like incredible. So that's why I just haven't read the second one yet, is because I read a little bit of it and I realized I wasn't paying attention enough. So I'm putting it down for another time. But even just as a standalone, like it was so good. Gideon is possibly my favorite character of all time. Like, it was just such a good time. I implore you to read it. It is definitely like high fantasy, so it is quite complex in terms of the world building. But again, I felt like it was such a good time that if I didn't quite understand something, it didn't really matter because I was just having such a good time. So that is Gideon the Ninth. Absolutely the most fun reading experience I had this year. It was a joy, a blast, and I still cried. Just 5 out of 5 if I rated books, which I don't, but just like impeccable, wonderful Gideon the Ninth. And now, just in time for the construction to start in front of my house, is my favorite book of the year. I think, like, I didn't rank the other ones, but this one I think solidly, like the second I read it, I was like, this is it. I was knocked off of my feet so many times reading this book that like, this is the one, guys, okay? And it is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. I went into this book knowing nothing. So as you guys know, I usually work with Book of the Month, and they give us the list of what books they're going to be giving for the next month, and we're allowed to pick 2 of them. And I always kind of just look through and I'm like, yeah, these are the 2 that I would like. I picked Tomorrow and Tomorrow completely on a whim. Then I get another email from Book of the Month being like, girl, this book is like flying off the shelves. So I was intrigued. I was like, what? Why? Like, I thought this was about video games. And so I started reading it, and it was not just about video games. So I am not a gamer. I never had any kind of gaming console. Up until today, I always said video games. My husband games, and so he has since told me that like video games is not the correct term anymore. I'm out of the loop, okay? So I didn't know what this was going to do for me. This was technically, yes, it does talk a lot about games, but it's really about storytelling, and it was just the most incredible book, and then it just kind of like stabbed me in the heart. It was magnificent. So we follow a couple different characters, but mainly we follow the friendship between this boy and girl who met in the hospital, where our main girl, her sister had cancer, I believe. She was just very sick, so she was in the hospital for a very long time. And so our main girl would just like be in the hospital as a kid, like all the time. And one time she wanders into the waiting room and sees a little boy her age sitting there, and they start to play some game. Like they had like Mario or something, you know, and they kind of start talking. They build a friendship, and one of the nurses is like, hey, that's the first time that boy has spoken in like months. He was in a traumatic car accident. They were like, can you keep coming back and hanging out, you know? And so she does, and they have this friendship. They end up having this kind of falling out, and then they reconnect in Boston. I forget exactly what he's studying, but our main girl is studying game design. They link up again, and they're kind of like, why don't we make a game together? I think she shared something she worked on, and he was like, oh my God. And they, you know, start this friendship again, and it's more of like this creative relationship. We follow them for decades, I believe, and they start a gaming company. Like, when I try to explain it, it doesn't sound as incredible as it is. I loved reading about the relationships, but I also just loved when they would come up with these gaming ideas, like the way that you would construct a story. The way that was talked about was just fantastic. As someone who loves stories, they were making these references and finding inspiration from all of these different things that just made my brain so happy. Of course, there are relationship issues, there is incredible heartbreak, but it had so many really interesting things. Our main male character is half Korean, and so he deals with a lot of kind of identity issues, and he talks to us about that. That's just one example, but there's so many different themes in this book that are just unexpected, beautiful, hits you from all angles. Like, it was just an incredible book. I would highly recommend. The author also, by the way, just for that, like, the author is also half Korean, so it's just very strongly tied to her. Growing up, I believe she was I think she was talking to Jimmy Fallon. Like, apparently both of their families worked for IBM, so like they both grew up in that kind of like techie world. So she just has like the life experience and the vocabulary to make this such a rich story. It just absolutely knocked me off my feet. Like, it was just such a good book. So please read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. That was another book that I had the physical of, but I immediately handed it off to somebody else because I was like, please God, everyone read this. If I could give everyone a copy, I would, but I can't. So that is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. So that's it. Those are my favorite books of the year. Kind of, if you watched my worst books of the year, there were a lot of books that like entertained me, I had fun with, but I think that these books were ones that affected me really deeply in a lot of different ways. Gideon was pure fun, but I think the ones that I'm talking about today are ones that like are stories I think I'm gonna kind of carry with me for a really long time, and I don't know. They just like had something different to them than other books that I read this year. And once again, like I said last year, this list is for how I'm feeling on December 19th at 11:14 a.m. Korean Standard Time. It could change, but I'm happy with this list. Definitely, please go check them out. I'll list them all again in the description box, but yeah. Wow. I will see you guys next time. Please let me know your favorite books. A lot of these were ones that you guys pushed me to read, so keep it up. be on my case about it. So yeah, I'm so excited as always to continue reading and chatting with you. Once again, our Discord will be linked down below. I will see you guys next time. Okay, thank you always. This has been a really wonderful year. And tomorrow I'm going to finish, hopefully, the script for A Court of Silver Flames. And then after the new year, when I'm taking my break, I will go film that. So hopefully January, I will be giving you another plot breakdown video. So keep your eyes out for that. And I will see you guys next time, okay? Love always. Hope you guys are having a wonderful end of the year. Happy holidays, being safe and warm or cool, depending on which hemisphere you're in. And talk to you guys next time.